Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be bringing forth messages from the Pleiadian Emissaries of Light. They've come in this week to share with us the I Am Creator template that's currently activating within a lot of starseeds and light workers at this time. And I'm going to touch on that quite a bit in a while. We're going to be talking about what it means to activate this I Am Creator template within us and what it means to embody it on our soul's path. But before that, just a quick note for those of you who don't know who I am. My name is Sofea'Ra, and I am a quantum alchemist, which is pretty much a fancy schmancy way of saying I'm a high frequency angelic channel and I do quantum energy healing. It's a big part of my soul's mission, which is to do some advanced quantum healing modalities and help starseeds to ground their soul's missions by removing any energetic blocks, contracts, and earthly tethers. So if that sounds like you, feel free to check out my one-on-one sessions. I'm open for booking this coming month, and you can access it from the link below. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way for a bit, let's talk about the I Am Creator template. So I have the Pleiadian Emissaries of Light here now. We sort of had to, I'm not going to be live channeling, but you will definitely feel their transmission, their frequencies coming through this transmission as we go on. But I've already sat with them this last couple of days, and brought in a lot of messages in regards to what it means to activate the I Am Creator template and how to integrate it into our system in a more practical, tangible sense. Okay? So let's have a quick look. If you keep seeing me looking over there, because I have my notes, so bear with me a little bit, okay? Let's have a look at what is this I Am Creator template. What is it? What does it mean to be a creator? So we've heard of this I Am Creator. We see ourselves as creator beings, beings of source in fractal form. And we understand this cerebrally, but do you feel it in your body? And that's what we're going to touch on. Can you believe that God, source, or this supreme force of unconditional love, light, and wisdom is working through you? So I don't typically use God because it tends to be really triggering for people. Like, for example, if you say the word Reiki to anyone in 3D, it's very triggering because there's a lot of it's inversed and subliminalized, basically, where a lot of keywords that we use in our spiritual space have been, again, inverted, and there's subliminals embedded in them, so that anyone who hears it gets repelled by it. But that's the point. We're here to heal those inversions and reconnect these ideals back into a purer force, right? And this is you remembering your God self, to embody that the embodiment, that source, to embody the source that is unconditional love. I don't know if I said that right, but bear with me a little bit. If it hasn't activated already, this I Am Creator template within you, it's getting activated at this time. And if it already has, you will go through a process of this template deepening within you. Okay, so what is this I Am Creator template? Right now, at the core of it, this I Am Creator is a means of reconnecting with the spark of source that exists within you. So you are here to be the vessel in which this spark expands and transmits unconditional love into all those who hold sparks of light. Okay, and this is a transmission that, it's the kind of transmission that breaks through the field of separation and ignite the spark of light that is within humanity. And this happens through your soul lessons. When you heal, we have a very unique opportunity in this lifetime to basically compress many like an entire set of multiple lifetimes worth of karmic clearing into a single one. So we've compressed a lot of karmic clearing into a single lifetime. And as you do that, what's happening is you are also breaking through the veil of separation by healing. When you're doing your healing work, when you crack your soul lessons, what it's doing is that every transmission that comes through from that process that you go through ends up being sent down into the Earth's grid, where humanity gets access to it. As long as they're open to it, they can receive that frequency as well to help them break through those perhaps very similar soul lessons and karmic cycles. Okay, so it's a domino effect. And here's the thing, you're not doing all the work. And I want to touch specifically on the idea of sovereignty, because sovereignty is, from what they've shared with me, is going to be this groundwork of accessing this I am creator template. And there's a lot of misconception around sovereignty. There's this false independence program that makes you think that you're all that you need, which it's kind of a bit of a slippery slope, so bear with me, which it's not entirely true, because it's also now somehow it's become this separation framework, especially within the new age sector, right? So we were never doing this on our own. Every people we encounter, situations we experience, a lot of it were big parts of our contracts. We negotiated with other souls to come in and be a catalyst to certain experiences and lessons so that we can evolve. And really think about what a beautiful transaction that actually is, what a beautiful service that is, from a soul to soul exchange, right? Because on the earthly plane, you don't have to like these people, or you could still feel hurt by them. You could still be healing and you don't want to talk to them, you want to label them as good or bad people. That's completely up to you. We're not talking about that as much, right? What I really want to drive home is the idea of bringing in a higher perspective to the situation, because that's also the point. I'm talking about simply allowing yourself a moment to be a witness to the higher perspective of what these situations and people represent to you on a soul level. Because you have also equally been a catalyst to others as well. So they can see you as maybe a good person or a bad person. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you have also been that sort of force of catalyst would be the more appropriate word, but you've also been sort of that driving force to help others look at their shadows and reflect on what they need to heal inside, just as much as any situations or people that you've encountered have done the same for you. And it's so easy to villainize everything nowadays, because we're so adamant on holding on to our hurt and our pain and the situations that we experience at face value, because we sometimes forget to invite the capacity to look at these situations from a higher perspective, right? And when we hold on to it from that manner, what happens is it's only going to hurt us, really, because sorry, I kind of forgot my train of thoughts there, but that's the point. We're gonna leave it at that. Let's see. And this whole thing where we're constantly being the catalyst for each other, it's exactly that. It's not one or the other. It's not just about me. It's not me or them. It's a collaboration, constant collaboration. And that's where I feel like, in terms of sovereignty, when we get into the idea of sovereignty, we become so adamant in the fact that no, it's all about me, it's all about what I feel, all about what I can do and what I can take. And again, this is the separation framework that exists right now within the new age community. This is something that a lot of people are accessing because, once you start going through the lessons of, I need to let this person go, I need to heal this or that, you kind of forget that you're not doing this on your own, if that makes sense. I'm not entirely sure how. I'll try my best to explain this, but it's a bit tricky. I'm getting tongue-tied a little bit on this one. Because of the fact that we hold on to those hurts and unwilling to see what it's teaching us, I feel like that's where this false independence program kicks in, and we just go, no, I know what, I don't need anyone. But the truth is, we are interdependent beings, and it's a very big part of our experience here on Earth is also the beauty that we experience, that is humanity. And we often forget that because we're constantly vilifying 3D, but that is exactly where your soul, that is exactly the magic that your soul wants to experience, because by going through your 3D situations and the people that you encounter is where your soul gets to evolve. And we forget that sometimes because everyone's so busy trying to chase 5D, you're forgetting 3D is there for a reason. It's your foundation to master the most basic principles that your soul needs, and we can't do that alone. So think of it like this: a soul has asked you before you reincarnate. A soul has asked you, you know what, I need to learn to set some boundaries. I was struggling with this for God knows how many lifetimes, and I want to learn it. So I want you to be my mother in this lifetime and treat me like shit. Okay? Now, this can be a bit of a hard thing to process mentally. Instantly, you'd feel a lot of resistance, and especially if you're still carrying a lot of wounds and you're still healing, it's fine. That's totally normal. And you don't even have to take my word for it. Question it. I invite you to question it further, but I also invite you to open yourself up to the possibilities, okay? Because we can be too cynical to the point where we close ourselves off to everything. And you want to have a healthy curiosity as much as a healthy receptivity to invite more possibilities and perspectives, okay? Because we don't know everything. And that's exactly it, because that's why we're here to learn. We're constantly in co-creation with one another, whether on an earthly plane or through our higher selves. And this is where your true sovereignty lies, where you're in your divine power. You're not taking any shit. You know that you're capable on your own, but you know that you can also be extraordinary with others. You're deeply devoted to your sense of compassion and your drive. So, like I said, we're interdependent beings. Recognizing that there's no separation between us is also about recognizing that we're all students and teachers for each other. No one's truly above or below one another. Okay, so now that we have a bit of a understanding on I guess grander scale, let's ground this a little bit so that we can see what it looks like. And I'll give you a personal example. So my mother and I, we had a very tumultuous relationship when I was younger, and she was my primary abuser when I was a child. And what happened was, at the time I didn't realize how much of a spiritual awakening that she was also going through. And that's the thing. Again, it's not about excusing anything, but I want to point out the fact that people have very different contracts. While I see a lot of people, light workers especially, have contracts where they need to learn to, if someone is treating them wrongly, like, hey, I need to cut this person out of my life. But it's not the only contract. People experience things in different ways. And in my particular case, while we had a tumultuous and abusive relationship through my mom, we also equally had the kind of contract where we came here to heal that this mother-daughter dynamic. Okay, so, and that's specific to my case. I've seen a couple of other people who have something very similar, And I'll get to that in a bit. So we had a very tumultuous relationship when I was younger, and I had my spiritual awakening sometime in my late teens. I was maybe 19 or 20. But having said that, I was still pretty conscious on some level. Since I was a kid, I was very tuned into the world of energy. I was tuned into source since I was a kid. I would get prophetic dreams and psychic visions and whatnot, things like that. So I was pretty conscious that I came here to do something even as a child. But at the time, obviously, I didn't really realize how much of a spiritual awakening my mom was also going through at some point. And our dynamic shifted by the time I was 12. That was when she pretty much went through her spiritual awakening. And that's another thing, is that we don't realize how much perhaps people from a previous generation might struggle with this sort of awakening situation, because they probably don't have the tools to regulate themselves or understand what's happening, right? It was probably such a shock to them as well. And I've seen my mom grow and change in the best that she could. Even though we didn't really have a very good relationship, I was very angry with her as a teenager, because naturally when you become a teenager, you start realize the shit that you experienced as a child wasn't okay. So I was harboring a lot of anger and a lot of hurt with her. And at some point I stopped talking to her. And she basically got this spiritual awakening before I did, so maybe 5 to 8 years before I experienced it myself. And when the time came for me, what happened was, during the first few years of my spiritual awakening, I was going through a lot of the deep shadow work, just very natural for anyone who's going through that initial phase of spiritual awakening, right? You're in the dark night of the soul, you're purging everything, you're facing all of your shadows and all of your pain. And during those years, the relationship between me and my mother started growing and it started developing. And what I've noticed is, when I went through my spiritual awakening, it was also triggering her. And I don't mean triggering as in like an ego trigger. It was more so that the more I was healing, I was noticing that she was also going through a process of healing. Somehow, whatever I'm experiencing on a soul, when I'm experiencing a soul level growth, she was also experiencing the same. There was this frequency that was bouncing off of each other. Okay, and I was healing a lot of mother wounds at the time. So when my energy became lighter, her energy started becoming lighter, which was very interesting. And over these last few years, we've grown our relationship to the point where it's, I wouldn't say maybe not completely healed, I wouldn't say like 100%, but I'm very confident in saying like 95% maybe, like we've transcended the earthly sort of mother-daughter dynamic, and it's more of a soul-to-soul connection now. And to be fair, she's as spiritual as she is, she's also someone who's operating still from the 3D plane. She's more grounded in the 3D plane compared to myself. And what happens is, every time we get a chance to interact with each other, and I want to specifically highlight this when it comes to the fact, just to show you an example of how we're constantly activating each other, okay? When it comes to the basis of true sovereignty, you're constantly co-creating, you're constantly collaborating on an energetic level. And when we come together, what happens is, I would have the opportunity to maybe teach her some things that are a little bit more technical. So for example, when I'm teaching certain energy work and practices that she could do to ground herself and shield and whatnot, so things like that. And similarly, what she offers back to me is this sense of clarity and guidance. So I'll give you an example. I specifically feel the call to, I specifically feel guided to talk to her when I'm having one of those days where my mind is foggy, I'm lacking clarity, I'm overloaded with downloads that I'm trying to almost having the trouble separating my thoughts, or when my own wounds and insecurities come up and I'm trying to heal them. Sometimes, when you're consumed by your own pain, you can't, it's a little hard to snap out of it and become the observer to see the sort of bigger picture that's happening, right? So my higher self will immediately bring down this download to go and talk to her. And what happens is she becomes a conduit for higher perspective to come through. And the frequency we hold with each other allows these teachings to click in a way where if I was to hear it from any random person, it wouldn't. So that's what's so special now about this relationship, where both of us have met this sort of pinnacle point of healing for each other, through each other, and our sense of relationship has now developed to a more soul-to-soul experience, where she equally gives me again, like I said, she operates spirituality from a 3D plane, but she is also a conduit for higher perspective for me, so when I'm talking with her and I'm saying, okay, so this situation was triggering me and I was so frustrated by it, and then immediately my guides will bring in just the right message, just the right download through her so that it clicks for me, and it's just the same thing as, say, if you're going to a healer. I've had a very interesting experience around this recently, where you're going to a healer, and this healer is also helping you to sort of remove your blocks, right? And this is a beautiful part of it, where you have someone who is supporting you energetically so that your soul could progress the way that you want to. And oftentimes people don't realize where, when you go into this sort of separation framework of being sovereign, they think, oh no, I did it all myself, I changed my life, and things like that, without realizing that yes, your healer probably removed a few blocks for you, and that's fine, because again, you're here to support each other. You're not doing this on your own. You have people here, you have other resources that are energetically here to support you. But if you close yourself off to it and think, I'm all that I need, yes, technically you are all that you need, but again, we're all interconnected. Whatever you're experiencing on an energetic level is also affecting many who are interwoven in that same web. And you have people and resources that are ready to support you if you allow it. And this is a very important part of supporting this I Am Creator template. Your sovereignty is the groundwork to support your I Am Creator template. Simply because as a creator being, you are constantly going to be accessing various energies, frequencies that are connected to different people and situations, right? And if you are blocked off to it, and you have that false sovereignty framework, and you're leaning onto it so much that you don't need anyone, and you block yourself off from experiencing your creator self. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, again, feel free to just drop off in the comment, but I really hope that was clear. So it's the same thing as you learning from your guides. Your guides could be teaching you how to do certain energy work practices, how to manifest and whatnot, and they could be giving you downloads, but equally your guides are also learning from you. They're learning about this earthly experience. You're sending them the information, you're sending them the data, they're witnessing this, like, okay, so this is what you experience mentally, this is what you experience energetically, emotionally, all of that stuff. You're sending that information back to them. So this is constantly a co-creational experience. We're experiencing in an individuated form, but also a constant collaboration as well. And why is that? Because again, as a creator being, you are shifting paradigms. You're not here to just take it and continue to feed this sort of false world narratives and separation, illusions of separation narratives. So think about like programs of complacency. You're here to break those. You're here to break programs of complacency, of victim consciousness, of blame, greed, lack, scarcity, fears, doubts, all of that stuff. And to be in the space of a creator, to be in the space of sovereignty, is to recognize just as much as you are impacting light within each other, you're also impacting the shadows, right? And this is a very common concept we hear all the time. Everyone's a reflection of you. Everyone's shadow in some level exists within you. So when you think about it like that, obviously you're interconnected. So what makes you think you're separate from people by fueling into the idea of false sovereignty, you know? And by recognizing yourself as a creator being, you are breaking free from these mind control amnesia programs. Your lucidity training hits another level where you're no longer sort of swimming in this vortex of what was placed upon you, but instead you are cracking the codes that allow healing and transformation to take place on a massive level, okay? Which in turn paves the way for many others to follow. Just like if someone else, if you're thinking that, okay, I figured out my abundance codes, just like how you're learning to break through scarcity, to break through lack, to break through poverty consciousness, when you heal those templates, what's happening? Other people also get access to this frequency in their consciousness to be able to do the same thing. But you're not the only one that's doing it. Chances are other people have the high possibility is that many other people have already done it before you, which also in turn allowed you to break free from those programmings as well. So again, you're not doing this on your own, okay? So by rooting true sovereignty, by being in your divine power, but also recognizing the interconnectedness that we all have, is how you're going to be supporting your I Am Creator template. And like I said earlier, if you haven't activated that template already, it's getting activated now. And they wanted me to bring in to just teach about what this means, to how to embody it, and we've already gone through that. Basically gave you an example of what it looks like. And by learning what it means now, that as this template is starting to activate for those of you who it hasn't already, you're going to be coming across a lot more situations where you're going to be challenged to look at the higher perspective. What is this situation teaching me? What is this person teaching me? Instead of giving into your false programs like victim consciousness, complacency, and blame, greed, all of that stuff. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna end this here today. I was also told to share an Oracle light code transmission to activate the I Am Creator template, and I'll be sharing that in maybe about a week and a half or so. So stay tuned for that. And like I mentioned already, for those of you who are starseeds, you want to ground your mission onto the earth plane. You want to remove all those pesky blocks and contracts that are keeping you, unable to get started. If you're someone that just wants to get started and get going, you're in the right place. You can check it out in my website, all of the quantum healing sessions that I have, so that you can start getting back in alignment with your source blueprint and getting rid of the false light blueprint within you. Okay. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon.